It's time to play musical matchmaker because in this episode, we're diving into the wild world of rock supergroups. We're taking legends from different bands, throwing them in a studio, and asking the ultimate question, what if they jammed together? Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff. And Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. If you're new, you found us. Hopefully, you're going to pull up a chair and sit with us for a while with this episode. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we've got a whole bunch of other episodes, well over 250 or some odd episodes for you to peruse from music to movies to top fives to roundtable discussions. I mean, there's a whole bunch in there, and we invite and encourage you to come check it out. If you're interested in going a step further, you can go ahead and if you want to support independent content creators like Eric and I, go to buymeacoffee.com/3324. You can become a Green Room supporter, which is a great thing as well. Or if you want to continue the conversation, which I would fully expect to have happen with this episode, hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Leave a comment with your picks because this is one of those. This is going to be one of those fun episodes, Eric. I think this is,
it was an interesting idea that you
great
had.
What if? This starts off
really
our What
is.
If series.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome.
So what we're doing, go ahead.
Okay, well, go ahead, introduce it, and then I'll ask.
Yeah, what we're doing
questions.
is, it's the age old thing, and ever since we did, we've done the Traveling Wilburys episode, and they're pretty much, I don't think I'm going out on a limb. Well, let me first of all introduce Christopher. Christopher Clark is with us, so welcome aboard, Christopher.
Good to be here, man.
As always.
Or you go too far? I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but
yeah, right.
But we're talking
I'm excited about this one.
would I get any pushback in saying that overall, critically, I mean, the Traveling Wilburys are known as the greatest supergroup? Is that too far out of bounds to say? As pretty much like the epitome of a supergroup, like. They all got along. They made great records, and they got out before it got too crazy. Before they started fighting, like if you take everything in its totality, there was like some defined leaders. Other artists knew what role. Right, there wasn't too many chiefs.
Yeah, you could say that, given the fact that two of the members are two of the greatest artists of all time.
Yeah. Right.
But that was left at the door. So in that sense, I think they were, they came up with a very sort of unique kind of thing, kind of vibe, which was very inspirational for my pick. Mm-hmm. And given that same spirit. So, we'll get there, but how
about the dynamic? Yeah, the dynamic is important.
Yeah.
You make a really good point that, it's easy to put together a wish list of, I'd like to have this one, and you can do that. But I think what we were challenging or what, certainly what the challenge was is artists that are going to mesh well together as well, either performance wise, genre wise, personality wise, whatever, how would these five people, what would it be like if they were in a room together, so I think that's kind of, like I said, it's easy just to kind of pull people out of thin air. So there was a guardrail, a couple of guardrails that we put in.
Yep.
So when we chose, first of all, our group is consisting of 5 members, just like the travel. We're using the Wilburys as kind of a
template,
a little bit of a blueprint, a template for it. So it's 5 members. Whoever we picked has to be alive.
Yeah.
So you can't go back and pick, fucking Mozart and Buddy Holly and, it's just, it would get too crazy. So Chris, was that a little bit of an issue for you?
So I realized, in doing this, when you told me that this was a topic you wanted me to participate in, I was very excited about that. And then I realized how many people that I'm a fan of are no longer alive.
Yeah.
And so, there were at least a good 3 or 4 musicians that I was like debating between. Like for example, I love Cliff Burton and I love Chris Squire as bass players, and it was very easy. It made things a whole lot easier when my 2 of my favorite bass players were taken out of the running. So that guardrail made it easy. I was surprised by how quickly it came together for me, and I think part of that was considering your guidelines and what I would want as far as like my musical tastes, and that made it actually easier. And it came together so quickly. I'm like, I'm not going to think about this anymore, because if I do, I'm just going to keep switching things out. So the 5 that I came up with right away, I was like, okay, I'm putting this to the side, and I'm not going to think about this anymore, because if I do, I'm going to make myself insane. Because I could definitely
the roster was the roster.
The roster was the roster, and I was very happy with it very quickly, which I was really surprised by.
And perhaps that in itself could be the sort of same kind of impetus that Wilburys had, right? It was just very sort of off the cuff, and it came together as a single, and it just they didn't think about it too much, did they? I mean, at least that's the impression you get with the music that was given. But yeah, I agree. I mean, just within what we're talking, I was asked to do this like 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. There was a hell of a lot more artists alive at that point.
Yeah, right.
Choose from. Just within the last, just few years, how many people we've lost, and just, and it made it.
You're right. Because I was thinking about one. I'm like, oh my God, this person would be perfect for what my purposes are.
Right.
And I'm like, well, he's gone though.
Yeah, he's gone, and yeah.
I'll tell you, it was Glenn Frey. Like I was so wanting, like Glenn Frey was like going to be like and I'm like, wait, he's not with us anymore though, so you can't.
One of the darkest conversations I ever had with my brother was making a list of the number of artists that I've seen that are dead. And it's like, it's really kind of alarming how many of the people I've seen in concert are now no longer alive. And it really is within like the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. It's definitely something that's obviously going to accelerate as we go further down the line. So we did say 5, we said 5 members, and then you could either kind of construct a band out of the 5 members if you wanted to. So if you wanted an all-star drummer, bass, you can create a group like that, or you can just kind of go with who are your 5 top players, and maybe some play instruments, or maybe some are multi-instruments, and then we kind of wanted what I called like the Jeff Lynne factor. Is at the time of the Wilburys, he was still somewhat like, everyone was kind of like, we know everybody else but that guy with the glasses, and the furry hair. So I encouraged everybody to pick kind of like a quirk, random element that people would be like, what? Like, I don't understand who is this, or what are they doing here? Which kind of made it fun. So when I was doing mine, I was trying to put each artist into what slot I thought they would fill in the Wilburys, but we're not going to go that deep. And then we asked everybody to come up with a group name, and if possible, their debut album.
Yeah.
What that would be called too. So now we do need to also say one thing. Our good friend Andrew Cremines was supposed to join us. He was slated to join us. He unfortunately is not feeling well, but he did send us his picks. So we are going to actually go through. We're going to round robin like we always do with our picks. But Andy's picks, he sent us some notes about each one. So we've got each one of us we're going to take a crack at it, and we'll kind of go through his as well. So this way he doesn't miss out. So Andy, we're sorry that you missed this, but hopefully we're gonna do justice to you. So.
Get better.
I was going to say, and hopefully,
hopefully he's listening. But
that's not a request; that's an order.
That's it.
Get better.
All right.
All right. So we're going to start off with his pick first, and I'm going to go first.
Okay.
So, and I don't know that he's got this in any order. He just numbered everything. So I'm just going to read number 1. And from Andy's point of view, although he tried to fit in Steve Perry, which would have been a given for anybody.
Yeah, seriously.
Have Steve Perry as like the leader or one of the members of your group. He loves his voice more than any moderately heterosexual man could love. He had to go with prime Ozzy Osbourne, Diary of a Madman era, just for his vocals and Ozzy would be the seasoned oldie, like kind of the
the statesman
of the group,
the elder. We also need to address the fact that Andy is our resident metalhead.
Yes,
so
and that's what
he approached from the standpoint of the very, very metal presence on our show.
Yes,
and he wears that. He doesn't wear that. He wears it very well, and he's proud of it. And hey, this is and I suspect this is where we're going with his picks. So I think
his picks are absolutely in that arena.
Mm-hmm.
He's and Andy writes he's here in order to make this band a true metal hard rock band, because we need a little bit of will he drop dead before the show danger, or will someone get hit in the back of the head with a microphone stand out of anger, or will some animal be sacrificed before this show is over? Kind of rock and roll uncertainty. So Ozzy fits the bill of the venerable veteran. The wild card. He checks off a lot of boxes. So I mean, that's a great pick for Andy to start his band off with Ozzy up front.
And Ozzy Osbourne, I mean, I only got to see him once, but the day I saw him as a solo artist and with Black Sabbath. It was one of the Ozfests, and it was far and away. He's one of the most dynamic performers in his prime. He was a great frontman, a great vocalist. He knew how to get the crowd working in his own quirky way, but he really was one of the most dynamic performers I've ever seen live.
Every time I would see pictures of him from a live show, drenched in sweat.
Yeah, he's completely working the crowd the whole time.
Like moving and clapping and walking from one side of the stage to another. I mean, the guy was not a stand in one spot guy.
And he was happy to be there. Like, you always got the sense that he was very happy to be where he was, and he had a true love for the people that showed him that love by being there live. It's not an exaggeration at all.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, that's Andy's number one is Mr. John Osborne. So Eric, here we go. I can't ask for an order because I don't know what an order means in this, because it's different for everybody. So just fire off who your first inductee. Don't give the name of the group yet until the end.
Well, first of all, I think I came at this as I always do. I'm the eccentric of the group, so I had to go there. I'm sorry, guys, but and I had some help with this one. I asked the women in my life what would be, their and so I did have a little help with this. So yes, my group is all women.
Okay.
Oh, very cool.
So,
that's awesome.
And the watchword for this particular band, the theme would be dance or rhythm.
Dance? Rhythm. Okay.
Rhythm.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so if that makes any sense.
Right.
So of course my first artist is Kate Bush. Okay, she is the elder statesman of the group, the artiste. Mm-hmm. She's a dancer. She's sort of avant-garde. She's experimental. She's got a hell of a voice, an angelic voice. Mm-hmm. Has worked with many people, but also very, very receptive and very sort of adaptive, I would say too. I mean, her albums are eclectic. They're very different from one album to the next. And she's not afraid to experiment with different genres, different styles. Black American artists seem to like her very much. When she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Big Boy, I think, inducted her.
No kidding, really?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah. Of all people, I mean, why? It was an odd choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's going to play a part in this as well. But yeah, I think that's, you kind of get it. I think you can kind of get a sense of where I'm going to go with this. I don't know.
Oh, I like it. I thought about it as
it's a cool take, man, for sure.
Yeah. I tossed the idea around as well. So I like it. I want, now I'm a little nervous.
I was
but
I was also inspired by other artists as well. In the picks as well, like, other artists who do this kind of thing too. Bowie came to mind, of course, and people like Prince, and people like, just keep that in mind as well when, in some of these picks as well. So, yeah. So all
right, there we go. Eric has set the table, and he's already got his elder statesman
Well, one of them.
One of them.
Yeah. Yes.
Filled already. So, all right, let's move on to Chris. What do you got?
So
I'm guessing everybody's first pick is probably going to set the tip the hand. I'm guessing.
So what I tried to do is I tried to think about the style, like, because the thing that I thought was most important that you said is like trying to make them all mesh and like kind of fit stylistically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was very thoughtful about that, and like my wheelhouses are always going to be like prog rock and hard rock and metal. So I tried to make those all fit, and I actually asked AI to make a playlist of the artists that I picked and to see, and then put it in such a way that it flowed, and it actually. I've listened to the playlist to see how it flowed, which was kind of cool. But my first pick is from one of my favorite bands growing up, and one of the touchstones of progressive rock, and that's my elder statesman, and that's the keyboard player Rick Wakeman.
Wow. All right.
He's always been one of my favorite keyboard players. He's played with Bowie. He played with Cat Stevens, who's also a very important artist to me. He played in Yes. So he's able to play in a lot of different spots, a lot of different styles, a lot of different types of keyboards. And I think he could slot in with a lot of musicians and really adapt to a lot of different styles in a very constructive way. And I've always been just blown away by his talent. Like my daughter plays piano, and I've always, like, when I want to encourage her to practice, I would show him her videos of him and say, look, this is what happens when you practice. Because I've always just been so blown away by his keyboard playing, particularly on Close to the Edge.
Rick Wakeman.
I agree with you there, Chris.
Yeah.
Right. So we see. So I think right now we've got three defined pathways. Right. Mm-hmm. Andy is absolutely, with Ozzy, has planted his flag in the metal arena. Eric has stated it's going to be all women and he gave us two keywords, kind of rhythm and dance. Right? You said?
Yeah, you could say that. Dance. Rhythm. Okay. Rhythm, I would say rhythm probably the best.
Okay.
Or
pattern. And then Chris has planted his flag so far in the prog arena.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which leads me to tip my hand for the elder statesman of the group. No surprise, is going to be Brian Wilson.
Okay. Nice.
My first.
Good one.
He can play almost, he can play anything. He can, he's going to be the guy that's going to put all this stuff together, right? Because he's got the ear for it and he's got the know-how. So it's a matter of figuring out who the lead is, and then assembling underneath him the people he can leverage the best and kind of and get the leverage their strengths out of. So Brian Wilson is kind of is going to be the leader. So we're talking like Pet Sounds, Good Vibrations era.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
That's amazing. That's a good pick, man.
Oh,
yeah, so I think we all kind of,
So, I'm excited now, man.
There's right. I think we've all kind of.
I don't think we're fucking around with this one, man.
I think
we took it pretty seriously.
I think we've put down where we're going to go with it. I think we're kind of we're going to kind of go there. So, Eric, you want to do Andy's number 2? Do you have that handy? Do you have Andy?
Yes, I do. Okay. So he picked for on rhythm guitar, Scott Ian. He says that Scott brings the chunk and heaviness, but also old school hip hop, even teamed with Public Enemy, the likes of Public Enemy, and bouncing rhythms to some of the greatest metal riffs of all time. I think that's where he's going with the whole sort of adding that element to the metal and keeping it, rhythmic, right? Here we go. I mean, that's playing. I think him and I share that vision as well. I think a little bit, just adding that little bit of groove to an otherwise very aggressive type of music. But you need it, every now and again. You do need that bounce, and I just love the way he described, chunks. It's like he's like, it's sniffing a bad smell, but then your head ends up bobbing up and down, with the groove, because it's just so odd, so strange. And it's attack of the senses, but it's just sort of, But you just
that's an interesting pairing, Chris, of so far of Scott Ian and with Ozzy in front.
What's interesting about Scott Ian is that Scott Ian definitely fits into a lot of different styles of music. Like he said, hip hop. I mean, they were even before they recorded with Public Enemy, they did that record on the Man. He's just always shown his love for guys like Malcolm Young from AC/DC, but then will play like hardcore music and punk. And he has a very distinctive sound to his guitar. Like you said, See Among the Living, like his guitar sound on that record is amazing, but he's also able to play in a lot of different different styles with a lot of different people. And he's done that throughout his career. So it's actually a really inspired choice as far as guitar players are concerned, because he definitely likes a lot of different styles and would fit with a lot of different styles.
Yeah, that's and he's very much a utility player, Scott Ian.
That's key. I think the adaptability factor, I think, is anybody who has that ability to sort of fit in, even when you don't think it's gonna work. I mean, they know what they can do and what they can't. So, no, it's an excellent choice.
Yeah. All right, Eric, segue right into your next pick.
Yeah. So my next pick is eccentric extraordinaire, and I guess she would be considered sort of the Dylan of the group. If Kate Bush is sort of the George Harrison, I guess, and she's English. My next pick is Bjork. She is Icelandic, very quirky, very avant-garde, a dancer. A visual artist, very much in common with Kate. Very unique voice. I just love the quirkiness of her. And again, very, very, very sort of eclectic. She's done movies. She's acted. She's kind of wears many hats.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would be an interesting pairing. I don't know exactly how they could harmonize together, but I know they could make it work. I know there's like the voices would be just something out of this world, amazing, something that you could actually sample.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that's absolutely a segue in for my next artist. So we're coming up. So
wow, he's just Eric is just kind of laying each piece out there.
Laying the tracks. Yeah, there you go.
He's kind of giving us he's giving us I didn't even think about that. He's teasing the next one already.
Yeah.
And so wow.
Yeah.
Bjork, because Bjork is almost like a kind of latter day Kate Bush in a lot of
she definitely is.
Or taking that eclecticness to like the umpteenth level.
Yeah.
And kind of really kind of, Kate Bush kind of got lost in the sauce in the 80s and kind of didn't get the due that she really deserved for being.
She's getting it now though, which is
exactly.
Interesting. Because of
she did some of her best work in the 80s, in my opinion. Decidedly.
So having Bjork, it's almost like the master and the Padawan, right? Having like Kate Bush and Bjork, right? Kind of like so that's a good one. All right, Chris. Rick Wakeman.
Yep. And so what I tried to figure out is the one I came up with last that it took me a minute to think about until I heard one of my other picks talk about the band Rush. And then I realized that would be the ideal guitar player for the band I put together. And that in that he can do hard rock, he can do a little bit more like poppy and like keyboard driven stuff like Rush did in the 80s and kind of fit in with a lot of different all the different styles that I want my band, and that's Alex Lifeson.
Wow.
Alex Lifeson, I think, doesn't get his due as one of the touchstones of guitar, but he's a phenomenal guitar player, and he adapted his style to fit with the times and was able to play in a lot of different spaces and mesh with a keyboard player, but then also stand out on his own as a guitar player. And he kind of filled in the gaps when he needed to, but also could like be very guitar driven as well. So I thought he would fit really well with the band I was putting
Can you imagine like the show and like Rick Wakeman's like playing like a solo, and then Alex Lifeson like plays the same thing on the guitar? They have like a battle where Wakeman's like and then Lifeson's like and they're just kind of like battling back and forth
like Jordan Rudess and like Jordan Rudess and John Petrucci or John Lord and Richie Blackmore, like that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be pretty
harmonically, I think they would be.
People would lose their shit.
Absolutely.
Right. Or like as he's playing solos, Alex Lifeson just comes out and starts banging chords that go like, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. That would just be freaking wild. So,
that's a great choice.
All right. Chris is building an empire, building a Prague empire, one block at a time.
Yep.
For my second pick, I get goosebumps just thinking if this had ever happened, if Brian was ever in a group with Linda Ronstadt, and she's my second pick. 70s Linda Ronstadt to be harnessed with Brian Wilson.
Just the harmonizing alone, man.
Just
my God.
The stuff that she can do, right? And for Brian to have that extra palette of vocals and just a person that can sing anything, and then him on it as well, would just kind of just be mind blowing.
We're thinking about Brian Wilson writing specifically for the female voice. Like, what would he have done had there been like women in the Beach Boys?
Well,
what would that have sounded like?
He's written for female groups in the 60s. His wife was in a group called Spring.
Right. I forgot about that.
He wrote for them, and he's written for, he wrote actually Don't Worry Baby. He wrote that for the Ronettes, and they rejected it. So he ended up singing it himself. So, I think just having, and again, just when you're thinking about the vocal blend mix that I'm building, I think she would just, again, she's just like she's like the secret, the Weapon X, of
and he would definitely put her through her paces, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Take after take.
And it would be great to see
one more time.
It would be great to see him, like, to see her challenged in that way, to really, use her voice in different ways as opposed to the way she normally does, which is just belting it out. But it'll be fun to hear Linda Ronstadt as a member of the group. So she's the number 2 in. All right, we're moving on to the middle position. So Andy's pick is going to be covered. Chris is going to take number 3, and Andy, by the way, is building a he's building a group with all the instruments covered. So again, there was choices of kind of having a collective of artists, or actually having a group proper, and Andy is building a group proper. So his number 3.
So his number 3 is actually, I think, a really cool choice too. I would have never thought of this one. It's Billy Gould from Faith No More on bass. Billy brings funk bass under a heavy metal groove. The great thing about Faith No More is the bass guitar at the front, almost brighter than the rhythm guitar. He can also bring the not so serious feel to the band I'm looking for. I know there's a huge feud between the Chili Peppers and Faith No More, and a lot of people would pick Flea as their bassist. He's great, but I give me Billy over Flea any day. And I think what in the kind of band that Andy's trying to build, I definitely think you got a little, as funky as Billy Gould is, there is also that hard rock element, which he's a little bit more rocking than I think than Flea would be. And those Faith No More records, man, I went back and listened to them and when I got older, and they really are so good, man. They really do hold up really well, and he is a huge element in that band.
Yeah,
so a really cool choice.
I think Mike Patton is currently feuding with the rest of the band. I think there's something. Yeah,
he asked for
they want to go out on. They want to go out on tour, but he's just having a problem.
He asked for a mental health leave, and they gave it to him. And then he came back from the mental health leave and toured with his other band, Mr. Bungle. But then won't go back out with Faith No More for some reason.
That's how you do it.
Yeah,
that's how you treat people.
Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, Mr. Bungle's Andy's a big fan of them as well. So
they're a great band. They're a phenomenal band. They're so interesting. They really are cool.
But
very cool though. Right. Well. And Scott Ian currently in Mr. Bungle.
Yeah.
See that? All right. Well, maybe there's some a method to Andy's madness then.
Yeah.
So. All right, Eric, number 3.
Right, so I guess this person I would consider to be the sort of the center, or the Jeff Lynne of the group. I don't know if she is. It's not a fact. It's not a question of whether she's well known, because I think she's pretty popular today. She's a fairly new artist, but she brings the tech savvy. I think she is very experimental in the studio. She would be the producer. I would see her as the anchor of this thing, the producer, musician extraordinaire, guitarist extraordinaire, and Erin Clark, also known as St. Vincent. She would be.
That's a good choice, man. She's great. That's awesome.
Wow. She is, and she's also a devotee of Kate Bush. I know that for a fact. She actually covered "Running Up That Hill" for, I think it was the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where there was a performance of her performing that song on YouTube. Look it up. She did a phenomenal job. Again, she brings that sort of gravitas to her music, the sort of she could be very, very serious like that, or very artsy, but also she just has a lot of fun. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. I feel like these artists could be, they could adapt, and just deciding to make a very great dance record. Right. They just want to do, she experiments with beats. She's, she works with a lot of like DJs. She's, very, very popular on that scene. And she just tinkers, she actually builds her own shit. She experiments, she puts shit together, mics, the way she mics things, the way she, creates sounds. I am a great admirer of her, and she is just, so she would be sort of the anchor of this group, I think, and just putting it all together, I think. So, yeah,
cool.
Hopefully that, and again, what it would sound like, I don't really know, but this is where that sampling would come into play. If she were to take Bjork's vocals and Kate Bush's vocals and play with that, sample those vocals, mix them together, you'd probably have a cacophony of an entire chorus of just those two artists singing, harmonizing all, just, I could see really great things, her doing all, putting all that together. So that would be phenomenal.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Annie Clark, also known as St. Vincent.
Yep.
And she actually has her guitars are custom made for her.
Yeah. They're very cool. Yeah. They're cool looking guitars.
She wanted something that, basically that she said that a woman would be able to play just because of the styles of the bodies of guitars. She wanted something that was a little just more fitting for her, and those good,
very elegant.
Almost looks like kind of like a bow tie.
Yeah, it does.
But it's those are her like custom. I forgot who makes them, but she's got her own custom guitars too. I mean, it's she's no joke. Yeah, there's a lot of great concert footage of just each era. Like she's one of those people that every time she does an album, it's like a different persona that she adopts.
Yep.
She's almost taking on like characters and
a chameleon.
Daddy's Home and just all these other albums. She just kind of keeps evolving. So
she slots in with a lot of different styles of music. I think she subbed in for Kurt Cobain when Nirvana got inducted into the Rock Hall and stuff.
Yeah, she did. Yeah,
she did it with a lot of style too.
She did a great job too. And then she just played with them again. They reunited for something, and she fronted Nirvana again just recently, like within the past few months or last year or so.
Yeah.
All right, St. Vincent. All right, Christopher Clark, number 3. Who's occupying the middle spot?
So my Jeff Lynne is in a band that's very known, but he, I guess, would be unknown because he kind of performs under a pseudonym and as a character, and that's Tobias Forge of the band Ghost.
All right,
because Ghost pulls in a lot of the different elements and he's kind of the mastermind of that whole thing and writes all the music and puts the stage show together and all that stuff. And, he might be one of my favorite frontmen ever. He's very understated, but the way he is able to hold a crowd in the palm of his hand and the way he performs live is just, it's spectacular. And he's a songwriter. He does hard rock. He does poppy stuff. He does some progressive stuff. And so I feel like he would slot in really well with all these musicians that I'm picking because I think all but one of them he cited as an influence. So I think his musical style and his writing style, he can adapt to fit in with the other musicians that I picked to put in the band.
Nice. I'm surprised Andy's a big fan of Ghost. He actually designed one of their posters for their concert.
Yeah.
They're absolutely one of my favorite
that didn't
bands.
come up in his conversation that he would have picked that instead of Ozzy, but and Ghost is back. They've got a new release out.
It's coming out the day after tomorrow, man. The first 3 singles are fantastic.
Yeah, so
I would love to see one of their shows. Just because I just think they're so interesting. They kind of bring that prog thing too, right? The whole
absolutely 100%.
Kind of remind me of a Genesis and the whole costume thing, and the just the sort of.
He even covered Genesis. They did Jesus, He Knows Me. Yeah.
Really?
They're not afraid to go there, Ghost.
They're not. I actually, they were my son's first concert. It was probably the most fun I've ever had at a concert ever in my life. They were so much fun. Yeah.
So I think there's a big thing, or they're making a big thing about how in the latest Ghost music video, you can almost see a little bit of his face because he's wearing like a skull, like Tobias is wearing like a skull mask, but you see the bottom of his jaw, and it's like, oh my god,
But even the last mask he wore, I think, because he has to be able to sing and speak, like he's still saying.
It was more like Clytus from Flash Gordon, where it was like a piece. It was like a jaw piece, but he's revealing himself a little. Yeah. So that's a great one, Tobias.
Oh man, Clytus.
It's true.
I need to watch Flash Gordon now, man. You see, you put that in your head.
Just to see where
Flash Gordon, New York Jets.
See where he got his
popping out when he gets impaled on the.
You can't not watch that and say, I think that's where Tobias got some of the influence for his.
No doubt.
So I'm sure he pulls from a lot of things, and a lot of all that like Satanist stuff. I mean, like, it's done with like a wink and a nod, because a lot of it reminds me of like the old like Universal Monsters movies. Mm-hmm. Like it has that kind of vibe to it more than anything else.
Alrighty, my number 3 is kind of in the he's kind of the Tom Petty role in this in this collective of artists, and that's Mr. Jack Johnson.
Okay.
I wanted to bring him, he kind of brings in a little bit of the mellowness and kind of some of the softer edges, and can kind of round out some of the sound of, of what the group would bring. And it's not someone who's try to go toe to toe with Linda Ronstadt. Like that's kind of, there is up and coming that person that will match, but I think Jack Johnson is good in the background, and just kind of
I was he can have his say. Yeah. I could see him
just being mellow.
I could just see him and then he'll have his down to Linda,
and then he'll have his type of songs where they sing background, but he would not be going toe to toe with her.
Right.
But she could provide great support to his stuff, and just kind of that feel and the different textures. So.
You'd be okay like leaning back and letting somebody else take the spotlight for a couple of tunes.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to put together. Like I'm trying to imagine these people on stage and what it would kind of be like, and it's kind of like
I think he's nice, easygoing, like very sort of. I wouldn't say breezy, but it could be, right? I mean, you just chill, right? That's your is that the common denominator for you?
Well, the next two picks are going to change. We'll change things a little bit, but that's hopefully for the better.
Okay.
Hopefully for the better. So, all right. So now we're back to Andy. So I'm going to take his number 4, which is his drummer. And Andy writes, there are a million technically proficient drummers out there. The metal community argues who is more technically proficient ad nauseum, and it bores Andy to death, that conversation. But Jimmy Chamberlin from Smashing Pumpkins can barely from barely hitting a hi-hat to straight up death metal blast beat to a sound of an electronic drum machine, sometimes in the same song. Most importantly, he could bring the funk while he's doing it. Andy's picking him because he will only choose the hardcore when it's needed, instead of someone like Dave Lombardo, who will always attack it from a metal perspective.
Yes, he will.
So he's looking. So his drummer pick is a little bit more of can play the heavy stuff, but has that level of finesse to know when not to.
Oh, he's phenomenal,
and not always.
He's a great drummer.
He's got my vote.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
Yeah.
Didn't he get thrown out of the Smashing Pumpkins? And then
because he was
right.
using.
And then they brought him back in. So
my wife saw them on the Melancholy tour right after he got kicked out of the band. So.
Yikes!
Yeah, he was in my top 5, the drummers, right?
He was. Yep,
was one of my picks.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know. If Andy was here, I would ask him if we should allow him, because now Billy Corgan has like a podcast about music. And he's getting all the interviews that we probably should have gotten.
I don't know if Andy
Sharon,
knew that.
Sharon Osbourne, and
that was actually a really interesting one.
Yeah, he's got a podcast, and now he's getting interview. Just sits there for an hour talking to
Eddie Van Halen's kid.
I mean, he's a good interviewer, Billy Corgan.
Yeah, he's better than I would have thought for sure.
Yeah, he listens and he kind of knows the material, and he kind of coaxes things out of people. So it's an interesting thing, but I'm certainly not encouraging anybody to go listen to it. If you're going to do it instead of listening to us,
listen to us first.
Listen to it after us, then by all means go check it out, but not in lieu of us. So Jimmy Chamberlin is Andy's number 4 pick. So that leaves him with one more one more member of his band to fill out, and Eric is going to transition now into his number 4 of his very eclectic. I think he's got I think Eric is right now far and away taking the eclectic medallion in a good way.
Yeah. The last, I'm going to round out by instrumentation here, just the rhythm section.
Okay. So you got 2 more. Yeah. So I
got 2 more. So my number 4 was kind of on the fence about it. But what I liked about my picks is the fact that each member is from a different country. So my number 4 pick, my bass player would be Tal Wilkenfeld from Australia.
Oh, that's perfect.
So she, again, you would say, okay, well, she's perhaps more in the rock sort of jazz. But I think she has that ability, again, that sort of very adaptive quality where she's pretty much jammed with everyone. She's jammed with the likes of Prince. She knows the eccentricities of his stylings and the sort of artistry and that kind of thing. She could easily sort of slip in here and give us some really funky grooves and
absolutely.
Mix that with the electronic the sort of that St. Vincent would bring, and I think you got something going here. Yeah, I just think that would be a phenomenal. And again, I mean, she might be like maybe she's not that well known. I think at this point I think she probably is, even though she's not really connected to a group per se. She's played with a lot of great people. Yeah.
I think when she was playing with Beck, she was probably at her peak of
she got a lot of attention when she played with Beck.
It was like, oh my God, who's this bass player? And it was kind of
right.
And then she kind of, really haven't heard too much from her. But yeah, oh my God.
My other choice would have been Tina Weymouth from Talking Heads. I think
that's what you were going to go with. The way
that's a really good choice too.
It was my elder. Because of the quirkiness.
Yep.
The sort of but
Tom Club. I mean, she could do it.
Yeah, she would say, that's right. Yeah.
To the group, and she's got that solid bass line. So I was really torn, but given my drummer pick, I had to go with Tal. So we'll leave it there.
I'm
already setting up.
he just keeps on laying those tiles out.
Yeah.
And God damn it, now he's saying, because of that, the drummer this. Now I'm thinking about his thing, and I'm going to fucking forget to do mine when it comes time. I'm trying to think about who the drummer is based on what he just said. Son of a bitch. All right, so Tal Wilkenfeld on bass. So, wow,
that's a really good choice, man. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's awesome.
Groove. That's like that.
Oh, she's so good.
Yeah.
The fun part is just trying to think about what the music would sound like, just for all the groups. It's like, what would these, what would come out of this? Who would have the most influence, or who would be would Ozzy, exert a lot of influence, or would you let someone else who understands Ozzy and use him in the best, how do these people fit in as players and as collaborators? Would they, would St. Vincent try and be too much, or would she defer to someone like Kate Bush? And
well, see, that's the thing though. For me, the key would be that's where the Wilburys come in, where the key would be, you have all these intense players together. What would it sound like? But yet at the same time, I'm kind of hoping that they would just say, fuck it, and just want to do something fun. Right.
Yeah. Let's jam.
Let's just jam. Let's not even think about it. Let's just do something fun, put something out there that's somewhat accessible. I'm thinking of albums like So. Right, Peter gets very rhythmic, but yet he wasn't afraid to go a little bit pop there with Sledgehammer and
have fun with it.
And have some fun with it, and just sort of. But he's eccentric, but he's out there, but he's doing that kind of. That's what kind of these kinds of albums and Bowie, of course, doing a lot of the stuff that he did, and then bringing that sort of Prince vibe into it as well, the funk. I just think it would work. I don't know. I'm just.
Well, no, that's what I think. That's part of the thing is. I think part of the challenge is also imagining what it would sound like. So it'll be like, oh yeah, I think that would.
All right, ladies, are you listening? I hope you're listening. We got to put this episode out there. I hope somebody thinks. We got to start hashtagging everything.
Yeah, there you go.
Chris, number 4.
All right. So
have you been building a band? Are you
Yes,
going
I have.
with the instruments also? Okay.
I did. So
Okay.
I had Lifeson on guitar, Wakeman on
Wakeman on
keys,
keyboards.
Forge on vocals and guitar.
Yeah.
So the band I built, my ELO, if you will, is Dream Theater. And so I really built my band around the idea, like, I want Mike Portnoy to be the drummer, and who would fit best with Mike Portnoy. So Mike Portnoy is my drummer. He is a very versatile drummer. He writes a lot of lyrics. He's actually a really good lyricist. He's also kind of like very hands-on into like what the band is going to do and the direction that they're going to take, and definitely plays a very big role in any band he's in. And he's played in a lot of different styles. So most people know him for Dream Theater, but he played in more of like a bluesy hard rock band with Richie Kotzen called the Winery Dogs. He played with Neil Morse, which is more of a progressive, like not as like heavy hard rock type of band. So I think he would fit really well. And all of the musicians I picked, he's either worked with or he's been influenced by. So that's why I thought he would fit really well. And yes, he can be that drummer that is really like Dave Lombardo-ish and can go crazy on the drums. But I've also seen where he actually does have the ability to lean back and play smaller. That's why he actually has 2 drum sets on stage, like one for like the bigger, louder sounding songs, and for when he needs to lean back and play a little bit smaller. Wow. So he was kind of like the influence, because I had just seen them in concert. So he was kind of like the influence for where I'm putting the others together.
Maybe Zach Starkey should have had 2 kids.
That was bizarre, man. Holy cow, was that bizarre? Oh.
He's too loud. I was blown up. Like, are you kidding me?
They've smoothed it out now.
I think Roger Daltrey's just a curmudgeon at this point.
We didn't mean it. Rumors of firing have been greatly exaggerated.
I feel like Townsend stepped in and was like, "Can we take a breath for a minute and think about what we're doing?"
There's not many miles left on this Who odometer, and we don't need to be making any big big changes.
Starkey handled it with style, though. Like he did, until they reversed their decision. He did handle it with some grace. I will say that.
You know what? I think because of the back. I mean, everybody came to his defense. Like they're like he's been there since '96. He's been the longest. Call him what you want. Not a real member or whatever, but he's been the longest tenured side person, then, if you want to call him that, and then whatever you want to call him. He knows the stuff inside out. He's been playing it for 30 years. Now all of a sudden one fucking night and you're chucking the guy. I mean, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
And then the comments were great. You played with Keith Moon, and now you're criticizing the drummer for being too loud.
Overplaying.
And Pete said, he went on record saying that he wasn't a fan of Keith's drumming. Because he preferred a more, someone who kept time, right? But much better. Roger defended him and said he does keep time. He knows what he's doing. He's always defending Keith Moon, but go figure.
That's so bizarre.
Sorry for that little aside, but when you said 2 drum kits, I'm like, well, we know somebody that could have maybe used that and kept his boss a little under control without yelling. Oh, I can't hear the fucking song. Shut up. You're deaf anyway. You guys are deaf.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are deaf anyway. So
maybe it had something to do with your in-ear monitors.
Yeah, they really. I mean, it's like, come on, you're 80 something years old. There's going to be those issues anyway. But good on Zach Starkey he took the high road, and he didn't go on a scorched earth tirade right after that, and that probably helped too. Like, he's taking it like an English gentleman, and
there you go.
And he's back in the fold. Okay, my number 4 is someone that can go toe-to-toe with Linda Ronstadt. He could be the only problematic member of the band, but I think his the tools that he brings vocally, I think Dennis DeYoung would be a good fit for the band, because he can handle those high-end duets or the high-end soaring rock vocals if they're going to go in that direction. Dennis can handle that. He's going to bring a little bit more of a rock sound, and certainly the theatricality that he would bring would kind of, for a stage show, it would be kind of, 70s Dennis would be just kind of, the guy that, if Jack Johnson's kind of in the background, Dennis would be strutting around like a peacock and kind of doing all the moves. And, so it's a risky. He's the riskiest choice for this group because But
he
I think
fits really well.
I think he's a risk worth taking because of vocally of what he can do and what he can bring, and his songwriting chops. So bringing all that stuff to if he can be controlled in the right way, I think he'd be a great match. For him and Linda Ronstadt doing some duet together or some rock. Maybe some Meatloaf style like rock opera song, and they're both
I could see that
absolutely trading verses and really like going at it like prime time, like Come Sail Away Dennis versus 70s Linda Ronstadt. Forget it. Forget about it. So that leaves my quirk factor is left behind. So and it's gonna come from left field. I can guarantee you that. But in the meantime, Eric, we have Andy's number 5 to deal with. So this is Andy's final piece to his group puzzle.
All right. So I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Pull it up here. Okay. So his number 5 pick would be on keyboards. Money Mark Romos Nishita from the Beastie Boys. So. Okay. He brought that funk and soul feel to the instrumental funk songs that appeared on their albums, which I absolutely love. I know what he's talking about. Those instrumental tracks, man, they were killer. He's also a songwriter, producer, and I feel like he would bring that, oh man, where did that come from angle that the band would benefit from. That's an absolute brilliant choice.
That's an amazing choice.
Yeah, this is a killer band for sure.
I have a feel for all the instrumentalists.
Yeah,
I'm wondering how Ozzy would. Again, he's going with Diary of a Madman Ozzy, so that's different than Ozzy now. But that's really intriguing to because he keeps mentioning funk and he keeps mentioning kind of groove, and he keeps all of his picks are kind of like, well, they can do this, but they can also groove and they can kind of do that.
I mean, well, let's put the groove into Ozzy, man. Let's see what he, that's the thing. That would be the experiment was to see whether or not Ozzy would be, adept to that. So I don't know. I would be interesting to, that would be a very interesting experiment right there.
And the thing you got to realize too is Ozzy has guested with a lot of different musicians from a lot of different styles of music. And he's found a way, or the people he's played with or have produced him have found a way to make it work. Mm-hmm. So I don't perceive I actually think it could work if they did it the right way. So I don't think it's as far afield as we might be looking at it if we really dug a little bit deeper. So
sure. Okay. And just to put a bow on that, the name of Andy's band, he said the name of the band would simply be Boom.
Boom.
That's awesome.
The name of the band is just Boom, which is good. I like that. It's simple. It's to the point, and I think it tells you all you need to know with his assemblage of artists. So, all right, Eric, you're number 5. Who's rounding out? You said it was a drummer.
I have been
female, right? So
yes. Okay. She's been apparently around for quite some time on YouTube. She does a lot of videos for Drumeo, and she's from Germany. She hails from Germany. Her name is Annika Niles, and she's a phenomenal player. She's she's the grooves of. I hear a lot of like Billy Cobham in her playing, which I'm a huge fan of. That sort of that rock jazz thing that she's got going on. And I think her and Tal, that's the reason I think putting those two together would be just an absolute taking this to this stratosphere as far as just bringing that jazzy sort of funk to it and just, but knowing when to lay back when needs to, I think St. Vincent, she could turn around and say, hey, okay, let's do this. And they'll take it back. But I think Tal can just play some basic lines, and I think she could also, she does a lot of instructional videos as well. So she's well respected within the drum community, and I've been following her for quite some time. And I've just been watching Again, she's played with several people, but I just think she would just bring, and of course, she, being from Germany, she just adds that last step to the worldly kind of thing, but also coming together as a sort of connective tissue of what they're trying to accomplish here. And I guess, it's I trying to come up with a name. I'm thinking what would be a good sort of. I picked the name Raven, and I don't mean the bird.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a take on rave. I'll say so. It's a big rave. It's a giant rave party, but also coven. I'm thinking coven of like witches. I'm like combining the two words, as sort of, so Raven would be, this whole thing is just about dance. It's about creating something, putting something out there that's accessible to people. That would be a lot of fun, but also musically brilliant as well, I think. Cool. So I don't know. There it is. There's my group.
Do you have a debut album title?
I don't.
No. Okay.
That was even harder. So it might be maybe just the name of the band.
Raven?
I don't know.
There you go. That's simple enough. Oh. It doesn't get any simpler than Volume 1 and Volume 3.
This is true.
Yeah. All right. So the band is Raven. Wow. And so we've got Boom. We've got Raven. Chris, who's your fifth? I'm thinking you're missing a bass player, correct?
Yes, I am. So my bassist, I guess, in a nod to another guest that you frequently have, Jerry. My bass player is Steve Harris from Iron Maiden. He's an amazing bass. Because all my other favorite bass players are dead, so he kind of by default threw out living all of them. No, but
Duff McKagan, don't listen to that.
Jokes aside, Steve Harris is an amazing bass player. He's always been an amazing bass player. He's the leader and chief architect of what Iron Maiden is and has always been. And he's very influenced by prog rock, and he's obviously a metal bass player. And with my other picks, I just thought he'd fit in really well just based on his influences and what he's done on the Iron Maiden records throughout his career, because Maiden's been almost punk early on in their career, and then they were almost like a prog band now with like 18-minute, prog opuses on some of their more recent records. So that's it.
So do you have a band name?
Yeah, I went really boring and basically hybrided two of the members' album titles. And so Fragile Images was was the name of the band, which was just taking the album Fragile and the album Images and Words and pulling that out of it.
Do you have an album title?
And then my title, I wrote it down. I'm just trying to pull it up here. Moments in Darkness and Light.
Wow. Moments in Darkness and Light.
I almost like that as the name of the band better.
I was struggling, man. I really was. I'm not creative when it comes to things like band names.
Well, that's why AI is your friend.
I tried, and I was like, you know what? I felt like it was cheating.
I almost went there, but I didn't want. I didn't want to succumb.
A little help from your friends. Yeah. Our robotic overlords. They're here for us. They're here to help. Yeah. Okay, my final pick is, I needed somebody from the 80s. Because I have, Jack Johnson is kind of the 90s and later, and then everything else was from the 70s, essentially, like that whole thing. So I'm kind of like, I need somebody from the 80s, but I need somebody that's kind of quirky, but will fit in a weird way.
Yeah.
And my final pick is Howard Jones as the fifth member of this group. Because I think he was doing enough like quirky pop 80s stuff that was it was popular, but it wasn't hugely popular. Mm-hmm. And I think with his him and Dennis are virtuosos on their instruments, but I think Howard Jones brings that 80s technology type thing and leveraging the newer tech in the right way, and he can do that kind of stuff. So I think, and Howard Jones doesn't need to be front and center of the band, but I think having Howard Jones there also on stage, just kind of handling all the sequencing and just doing whatever, and then also singing when needed, but not. He doesn't need to be like the lead. How's that for left field?
That is a little out of left field, man. I wouldn't have thought of that one.
What the fuck, Howard Jones?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm trying to remember what his hit was. I'm like,
He had a lot. He had What Is Love? He had New Song. He had
he had
Everlasting Love. He had, of course, with Phil Collins, No One Is to Blame.
No One's to Blame.
Right.
Yep.
Things can only get better. I mean, he actually had quite a few hits, but he wasn't
that, when I think about it, songs like that, and I'm trying to picture this sort of eccentricity of Brian. I think Brian could have a lot of fun with Howard.
Yeah, I think with the chirps and just the synthesizer stuff that Howard Jones was doing early on,
bouncing off ideas of each other, in the studio. I think, they could come up.
I think it'd be interesting to be in the studio. Exactly, to be in the studio and say, "Oh, Howard, can you do this? Can you make this sound?" And Howard would kind of, would kind of do it. So the name of the group is the Sunset Assembly.
That fits.
Wow. And the album name is Avalon Boulevard.
Also fits. That's really good, man.
Avalon Boulevard is just a street in LA. So I just went to LA, looked at the map.
Californians.
The Californians. The Californians.
What?
John John.
What are you doing here?
Carol. Take Sunset down to La Brea and then make a left and go over,
What? Why?
Californians.
I forgot about that.
Hey, that's great, man. I see a very sort of, like I said, just that kind of vibe. We'll bring. It's just a very chill kind of thing, and I think, I don't know.
Brian using, having all these, grade A players at his disposal to use as he sees fit.
They're all his instruments.
And that's what he's so good at, is kind of. So if you give him the right toys and throw them in the sandbox, literally, it's there. So everybody, let us know on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Let us know what your picks are, because it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm actually going to get all of your guys' picks, and I'm going to make a collage of the bands for you. So I'm
very cool.
And get all their photos and kind of put them together in a band shot. And so I'm going to do that for you. I'll probably do it once we're done here. So
that's cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think it'll be kind of fun to see it. Like, it's one thing to write it down. It's one thing to look at pictures of them individually. But then when you see them kind of together, I think that'll be, it will kind of help kind of drive it home. So
awesome.
Now we just got to
use pictures of them in their heyday.
Yeah, from wherever, wherever appropriate.
Okay,
we'll put the right pictures together. And that'll, and I'll send that to you guys. But we want to thank Andy for giving us his picks, sending them over, so we're able to have him virtually with us, which was fun. I wanted to make sure that we got that in, since he took all that time, and he really thinks about this stuff as well. He kind of really as you can see by what he wrote to us, he kind of really gave that,
put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah, gave us a lot of the material and the hows and why. So again, Andy, we hope you're feeling better. And that's I think that's all we've got. We've got 4 super groups now, right? We've got Boom, we've got Raven, we've got
Fragile
Images, and we've got the Sunset Assembly. So you can
like that.
You could check Spotify for those artists, and you won't find them. You'll only find them here at the 3324 podcast. So I want to thank Eric. I want to thank Andy for coming. I want to thank Mr. Christopher Clark for coming as well.
Thank you.
And indulging in this. And like I said, to hit us up, everybody. You can do it right from the app. There's a little message us or contact us. You can do it from there, or hit us up on the socials. We'd love to hear your groups, what the name of the group is, and if you come up with a debut album name, that would be great too. It's just this was a lot of fun, and we got to find out.
It was fun.
Great idea, my friend.
Other wish list thing to kind of do. Maybe we do one with all artists that are no longer with us. Maybe we do the Heaven.
True. Okay.
Rock and Roll Heaven.
That's a good one too.
Yeah. So we'll put that one on the list. So that's going to do it for this episode of the 3324 podcast. Again, if you made it this far and you want to help support independent content creators like Eric and I, go to buymeacoffee.com/3324. That's buymeacoffee.com/3324. Become a Green Room supporter. It helps us keep the lights on in here. So for Andy, For Chris, for Eric, this has been Dean. We will catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.